Video, we'll be going over IRS Notice CP106. This is a notice that you might receive from the Internal Revenue Service if you filed IRS Form 990-PF and the IRS determined that there are miscalculations or adjustments that they need to make to your form. So what is Form 990-PF? That is the tax return of a private foundation. So there are instances where you may calculate a tax liability, or you might not, but then the IRS believes that you miscalculated it, so they go back and make corrections or assess penalties and interest. So we're going to walk through this form or this notice, kind of show you how you can resolve this issue. Before we do that, couple of notes that I want to point out. So note one, at the top right hand corner of this notice, you'll see the notice number CP106. You'll see the tax period that it covers, which is the period ending in December 31st, 2017. You'll see the notice date, employer ID number, and then a contact phone number. So I'll ask you to pay particular attention to the notice date, because more times than not, if there are action items, they may be tied to your notice date. So, for example, if you contact the IRS within 60 days of the date of this notice, they will reverse the change that you made to your account. You don't need to provide an explanation, blah, 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 but that is specifically within 60 days. If you don't contact the IRS within 60 days, then any changes that they implement will not be reversed, and you have to pay the additional taxes. So pay attention to the notice date. The second thing that I'll ask you to pay attention to is the address. This field right here should reflect the taxpayer name and address as properly reported on your tax return. However, if you relocated after filing your tax return, then the IRS is going to send this notice out. It will go to the wrong address, and it may take some period of time for it to catch up to you, if it even does. So I point this out because you can update the IRS records fairly easily. If you simply file your annual tax return, that's one way to correct your tax account. And you can call the IRS, validate your taxpayer information, and update your account over the phone. Or you can file IRS Form 8822 or IRS Form 8822-B, which is the business version of the change of address form. So we'll put links in the show notes to the resources we've created about any tax forms that we mention here. So change of address form included. So long story short, keep your address up to date with the IRS. You don't ever know when you're going to receive a notice. So you want to make sure that your address is current. So let's take a closer look at what happened here. There's a billing summary to the right. It says something about tax computation on the left-hand side. So let's look at this breakdown. It shows that the tax that you owed was $5,000. You paid $300, but then the IRS came back and assessed a failure to file penalty of $210 and then interest charges of $50. So if you agree with the IRS changes, you can simply pay the tax due by, there's a date here, February 18th, 2019. So you can just go ahead and do that. And if you make that payment on time as scheduled, then you will avoid paying additional penalties and interest. If you can't pay that, you can discuss payment options, such as creating an installment plan. So you can call the IRS, or you can file IRS Form 9465, which is the installment plan request form. So we'll put links in the show notes to that as well. At the bottom of this page, page 1, there's a voucher. You can cut that out. You can make a check or money order payable to the U.S. Treasury, write your specific information like your tax ID number, the tax period, and the form number on that check, and then you can mail that off to the address here. If you don't agree with the changes, you can update the IRS either by calling that number that should be in your upper right-hand corner of page 1 right here. Or you can contact the IRS by writing them a letter. Again, you have 60 days from the date of this notice, so by the time you receive it, it'll probably be somewhere hopefully closer to 45 to 50 days. And if you don't do anything, if you don't respond, if you don't pay, the IRS is just going to keep assessing interest and additional penalties. So the IRS basically says at the bottom of page 2 that they found an error in your tax computation. And then there's a contact information form if you choose to fill it out. So the tax information here is all the payments that were credited for your tax period. So this appears to be about $300. And then the IRS assessed a failure to file penalty. They also assessed a late filing penalty for exempt organizations and trusts. You can remove or reduce your penalties. You can request what's known as penalty abatement by filing IRS Form A43, either due to extenuating circumstances or if you specifically requested written advice from the IRS, you relied on that advice, you gave them a complete story, and they come back and assess a penalty, even though you took their advice, you could file IRS Form A43 to have those penalties removed. The IRS generally does not have discretion to abate interest charges. However, if you do have penalties reduced or removed, then the IRS will go back and recalculate the interest that should have accrued without calculating the interest on the penalties that were removed. So there is additional information. You can check out this link, which we'll do in a moment. Just a quick note, additional interest charges. Basically, this is kind of a disclaimer saying that if your balance is over $100,000, then the IRS is going to put you in a higher priority, and they're going to keep pinging you until you pay your balance. And they're going to give you a little bit more love and attention than if your balance is less than $100,000. Let's take a quick look at what is on the IRS website that might have been missing from the notice. So again, this is kind of a generic, we believe you may have miscalculations, you have options. There's not a whole lot in this page that wasn't covered in the notice, right? So it outlines very similar steps that we saw in the notice. So there's not really much new information in this. These notice FAQs are kind of hit and miss. Sometimes they do contain information that isn't in the sample. In this case, I didn't see a whole lot there. So we'll put links in the show notes to all the articles and videos we've created about forms that you may need to address this issue. If you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. And if you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or comments, or if there's a topic that you want to see in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.